Hi, I'm Nisha DeGaring, host of Good Things Utah, and I've been a longtime supporter of Todd's Belief Cast. I hope you find inspiration in the courageous stories shared by the amazing people Todd features on his show. The guests serve as shoulders for us to stand on, allowing us to see a little further and cultivate belief in oneself. Remember, you have the dignity and power to change. I encourage you to keep striving and believing in yourself. Enjoy today's podcast.
I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible sponsors of the BeliefCast podcast. First, Craig from Craig Swapp and Associates. If you need an attorney, he's your guy. Trustworthy, compassionate, always there when you need him most. Next, Wasatch Recovery, the greatest university on the planet, transforming lives one day at a time. Sandy from Minky Couture, the creative genius behind the most comfortable blanket you'll ever wrap yourself in. Comfort like no other. The visionaries behind Thread wallets. These wallets redefine style and functionality. Dave Philippi from Micro Plus, pushing the boundaries of nanotechnology and scientific research to bring us cutting-edge supplements for optimal health. The Ralphs and the Debenhams, creators of Mori Nutrition and Calm. Because if you're struggling with sleep, feeling stressed, or can't focus, Calm is your answer. Special thanks to the award-winning pianist Paul Cardall for his beautiful music that brings inspiration to every episode. And finally, Gab Wireless, letting kids be kids and giving parents the peace of mind they deserve. Right now, Gab is offering $25 off any device to new customers with no contract required. That's $25 off any Gab smartphone or smartwatch. Just go to gab.com/belief. That's where you'll get the best deal. That's gabb.com/belief. Thank you to all these amazing sponsors for supporting the BeliefCast podcast and empowering us to continue spreading positivity and inspiration to the world. And we are back. This is Todd Sylvester, the host of the BeliefCast. As always, thank you for tuning in. I love you guys so much. The belief you have in me means the world to me, and I couldn't do it without you. Again, thanks to the sponsors. Without you as well, I would not be where I'm at. And so thank you for providing the means to get this out to the masses. And then I've had some amazing people on this podcast. I really have so many amazing stories. And I feel like I'm the one that benefits the most because I get to usually sit with them face to face. But I know you guys have been filled, your spirit and your hearts and your souls have been filled with these stories. And today's going to be no different. Today, we're joined by the author of the Conquer Code, Trevor Farnes. Trevor, thanks for being here today.
Oh, it's a privilege to be here, Todd. Thank you for the invitation.
So I've known you and your family for a long, long time. We've got some history there. Yep. What's great is how I came together with your family is just, through some really tough times, right? Yep. And it's so beautiful when someone's vulnerable. It's amazing how close we can get to that person. So true. And then it just spread over into your entire family. You guys are just these lights that shine so bright in this world that we need. And you're no different. And I just want to thank you for just standing up for what you believe in, and you wear your faith on your sleeve. And I just admire that conviction.
Oh, that means a lot. And right back at you on just the love that I have and my family has for you, and the impact that you've had, not just on one individual in my family, but how that spread to the family, the life-changing impact that you have truly had. So thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, for those who don't know Trevor, he's the CEO and co-founder of Mountain Ops. It's an energy and nutritional product company focused on outdoor and hunting, the hunting industry. They focus on, and their mission at Mountain Ops is improving the lives of individuals and families through transformational products and a community built to inspire individuals to conquer more in their life. And I know you love the word conquer, and I love it too. Mountain Ops was recently recognized as one of the fastest growing companies and one of the best places to work, which doesn't surprise me. And you were recognized as CEO of the Year right? And that says a lot, because there's a lot of people that could get that award, but you got it. So congrats
Oh, thank
on
you.
that. That's
It
really
says
cool.
a lot about my team, to be
Yeah.
honest, and just the team that I've surrounded myself with, making that the best place to work for me as well, and then a team member that put that nomination in, and he was just too kind to do that. But
That's
I've got
awesome.
an incredible team.
Yeah. Well, you also have an incredible wife and kids. Is it Jenna?
Jenna.
Jenna.
Yep.
You guys founded Mountain Ops Initiative, Operation Conquer Hunger, to conquer hunger within the most vulnerable households in Utah and the world. We're going to talk about that today.
Okay.
That's amazing what you're doing there. Above all else, you are devoted to your faith. He's a husband to his wife for over 20 years and a product of 4 children.
Yeah.
Right? And again, the author of a new book,
Yeah.
The Conquer Code, Unlocking Success Through Failure, Faith, and Family.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about all this amazing stuff,
that's
right?
awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate
So
it.
why don't we start off, just tell us a little bit about your childhood and maybe about your family. That would be
Yeah.
great for us to know that.
Grew up just south of here a little bit, so driving down the road here was kind of brought back some of those old feelings. But I'm the 6th of 7 children. Grew up in an incredible household where it was filled with faith and family activity and everyone going a million different directions. But I've got there's four brothers and 3 sisters. Kind of the story that we always tell is that we all start with the letter T, our names.
Right.
my mom and dad started out wanting to create a family mission statement or slogan.
Okay.
And so they thought they'd do that by naming us all T's. So we have the initials T, and then our last name's Farnes. So there's the TF, which represents Together Forever, and that's the family slogan.
Oh, I wondered why.
That's
cool.
That's why. And so you'd have friends and such come over all the time, and they'd try to rattle off the names as quickly as possible. We'd time each other. It's Tim, Trisha, Tyler. I can't even. Tim, Trisha, Tyler, Tammy, Tara, Trevor, Trent. And it was this thing that everyone would do, but it represented Together Forever. That was the family mission statement. That was the family goal. That's the end in mind that my parents were incredible at instilling then and even now as we're adults. And so that's kind of been our focus as a family. And
why does that get you emotional?
Because connection is everything, and the connections that matter most in life, I don't want them to end. I want them to be forever.
Yeah.
And growing up as a child, I had some pretty strong insecurities, some separation anxieties, and so having that be a mission statement or the focus of our family brought some comfort to a young troubled mind. Where going away to school in the morning for just the elementary school was tough for me, and so knowing that I had a family that our focus was on being together forever was incredible. And then my father passed away this last year, and having that faith and that trust and that hope that families can be together forever, it means everything. When all is said and done, it is what I want.
Yeah, that makes I can see why that would bring comfort to know that, and it also brings me comfort as well. And so I really appreciate that. I knew your dad, and I met your dad several times. What a great man, and I'm sure he's proud of you and all the good that you're doing down here. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell us, how were you as a kid? Obviously we all have insecurities and struggles, but what was it like being a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I was into athletics, played football and soccer and all that kind of stuff. Was rollerblading, skateboarding all over the neighborhood. So I had a really fun childhood. Always active in different things outside. I was never really into the video games and that type of thing. I just wanted to be out playing with friends or playing sports or whatnot. And then having a lot of siblings, it was awesome. I had these older brothers and sisters and a younger brother, Trent, who you know very well, who was my best friend. I mean, we moved around the country a little bit growing up, especially me and Trent being the youngest of the family. My dad, whether it was through a job or a mission that they were called on, we were a part of that. But for various reasons, growing up, I had some severe separation anxiety. It even kind of has attacked me a bit in my older years, of life. But there was a near kidnapping experience. I wrote about it in my book, and Trent was there with me and a few other friends, and that occurred. And then the next day at school, the police showed up and everything. The next day at school, the elementary school had me stand up in front of a body of students and talk about this near kidnapping. And so that really made me feel like even more so like this was real, like this just
Yeah.
happened, and they're worried about it enough to have me speak to the other students, and so that just kind of put my young mind on heightened alert anytime I went out, looking at everyone on the street, or these adults dangerous, or they this, that.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, I'd try to go have sleepovers with friends and such, and I would pretend like I was sick every night. Every time that happened, and I'd go in the bathroom, fake like I was throwing up, call my mom and dad, I'm sick again. And, and my friends were always like, man, you get sick every weekend, man. And it was just my, me feeling that homesickness. And so, I went on a mission later on in life to Mexico, and everyone kind of wondered, would Trevor be able to go?
Is he going to make it? Yeah, right.
I grew out of it a bit in my teenage years, but yeah, I was homesick leaving. But because of what I was going to do, there was nothing stopping me. Like I come from a family that's very mission driven and very close to gospel principles, and my parents were just really good at teaching and living in such a way that it inspired me to want to be that way. And so leaving on a mission, it was, I was able to go and do that just fine. I couldn't, but once I got to Mexico, I couldn't fake sick and call home and and go sleep back at home. But even now, I don't like leaving my wife. She's become that safe place, or my kids have become that. And so it's kind of transferred from the family I had growing up now to the family I have now. And so getting into the industry that I'm in and such, I travel a bit to go on hunts and different things. And oftentimes you'll see my family there with me. We've videotaped all of these for content purposes.
Sure, yeah.
And my kids or my wife are there with me.
That's
so
awesome.
I just love the connection of family, and I try to make that the priority in life, and that's what I grew up with.
Yeah. I was laughing because I used to fake sick all the time. Whenever I had to give a presentation at school, like get in front of the class, I'd be like, and I'd fake sick, Mom, my stomach hurts. I don't think I can go to, and I'd rather take the zero than go try to stand in front of people and talk.
Oh, that was me. Now you are speaking to plenty of people, right? And
it's nuts.
Yeah, I have the same thing. In fact, my wife and I did 23andMe things. We gave them as a Christmas gift to each other a few years ago, and mine came back that I have a higher likelihood of fear of public speaking than most. But that's what I'm doing a lot right now.
That's what you
podcasting,
do. Yeah.
I'm speaking. I'm with this book. It's taken me, and it's not. I've come to find that it's not necessarily a fear of public speaking. I get anxious because I know I have people's attention and time for about an hour, and I do not want to waste their time.
Exactly.
Time is one of those things that's just so precious to me, and I know it should be for everyone else. And so if I'm going to spend an hour with people that are giving me some of their attention, then I'm anxious to make sure that they take something home, and that those that aren't in the room are benefited by what they hear and what they can now put into place.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I love that. So I know this is going to be a tough question, but if you look at your childhood and, being raised by your two amazing parents, you had, siblings that were awesome. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned through your childhood? And I know that's a hard question because there's probably 1,000 of them, but are there any that stand out?
100%. And I've got sweaty eyes. It's just born with a sweaty eye syndrome, right?
Yeah.
A knowledge that there's a God, and that I can rely upon Him wherever I am, wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, and that God sent His Son Jesus Christ, and that through Him I can overcome, I can conquer all in life. And that's why I call my book The Conquer Code.
Yeah.
When all is said and done, He is my conquer code. Jesus Christ is the way. And so honestly, there's a lot of things my parents taught, but one thing more than anything else that I'm grateful for to them is that they instilled in me a knowledge and a belief in my Savior Jesus Christ, and that is a constant source of strength and peace and comfort and overcoming that I can always turn to no matter what the circumstances of life are.
Well, and like I said in the beginning, you wear your faith on your sleeve, which again, I know you don't back down from that, and you really love it, and you share it, and you do it in such a way that it's very inviting.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you really
that.
do. And so, I wasn't surprised by that answer. So when you think of your siblings, outside of that beautiful lesson you just shared, what did you learn from some of your older siblings? Because again, you're almost the youngest, but just above Trent.
Just above Trent, but sometimes I look at Trent and I'm like, okay, all of my siblings are older and wiser than me. I mean, Trent, and you know his heart and his mind and the way he thinks and cares for people. Man, we shouldn't. We needed the box of tissues here for
Yes.
this one. Anytime talking to family, but yeah, older siblings and younger sibling. It's like they are incredible individuals who have definitely if you could pick out the people you want to follow, the people you want to be around in life, the people you want to be like, it's like I had them as my siblings.
Yeah.
And that stems from, faith, but also how they're raising their own families and
Yeah.
how they treat their kids and their spouses.
Yeah.
And then, growing up, watching my older siblings, whether it was serving missions or starting businesses and that type of thing. When I came off of my mission, I started working for Tim and Tyler, and my dad ran hospitals. He was the CEO of Wasatch Valley, the IHC Wasatch Valley Hospitals. He was in the hospital system here and did really well. I think he wondered, why did none of my children follow after my footsteps? But we all came home from missions or whatnot and looked at Tim, what he was doing as an entrepreneur. Tyler joined him, then I joined him, and Trent joined in on that.
Yeah.
And he kind of got that entrepreneurial bug. But I watched the way they did business too, and so even in that business that I worked for with them, we put together a set of core values, and the number one core value is recognizing God, even in the workplace, and striving to acknowledge His hand in all things. So I grew up with a lot of fun and a lot of, we were out skiing all the time or boating or doing a lot of activities, but just I had siblings that were kind and they cared about people, and I just watched that example.
Wow.
And I watched that in their homes, and I watched that outside their homes, and I watched that in business, and and so it's just, I've had the fortunate blessing of just having these types of individuals leading and guiding me.
Wow. Yeah. No, I know your older brother Tyler really well, and he has been a mentor in my life as well, and he is, probably one of the best, at least for me, business minds that I've been around, and just. But again, he's the same way. Like, he always put God at the forefront. Every time I talked to him, God got into the conversation, and it would always remind me, man, I got to be more like Tyler.
He is a good man.
He's such a good dude. Seriously, just all of you guys. And again, I know we're talking this all up. We all have our struggles and our battles, but at the end of the day, you guys just are a light that shines so bright, and I'm so grateful that I've lucky enough to come across you guys' path.
We feel the same about you.
Seriously, like, Todd, it blows my mind, right?
Yeah, we feel the exact, and I appreciate that. But we look at you and see that light and see that that example and that strength that has blessed us. So
well, thank you. Well, we're gonna do a little leap forward here. You're married, you have kids, and early on, you guys had some really tough times. Which kind of led to what you're doing today a little bit, right? So do you mind sharing a part of that story with us? Yeah,
no, I'd love to. I came off of a mission and met my wife pretty quickly working for my brothers, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she got a job there as well.
Okay.
And my brother Tim was a singles word bishop. His counselor was my father-in-law.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of brought the connection together. We started working with each other. She was fresh out of high school. She was 18 years old. I was fresh off the mission. We dated for 2 months, engaged for 2 months, the typical Utah marriage,
Right.
and the rest was history. We thought we were ready to take on the world. And so we've been married for almost 22 years now and have 4 children from 20 to 11.
That's awesome. 3
girls and a son. But those roles and responsibilities in life that now come at us when we start into adulthood, we're coming at us strong, to provide, preside, protect in this little family unit. And working for my brother, we were doing well. We were putting away our commissions, and the whole goal financially and with this career path was to open up our own business at some point and do good with it and succeed, hopefully. Some opportunities piqued our interest in 2007. The first was real estate, and had we known what was right around the corner in 2008, we would have run the other direction, right? And a lot of people lost their shorts during that period of time, and we were no different. We found ourselves in a really horrible financial situation with the real estate deals, but then we also invested into a franchise. And instead of buying one franchise to see how, and test the waters and scale it from there, we bought several. And so we paid the franchise fees. We inventoried the stores. We furnished the stores, hired 7 friends, and Trent worked for us. It was, all this. And then we signed personal 5-year guarantees on each of the retail locations that were $5,000 to $7,000 a month. And so we were just in over our heads. We were ambitious. We were,
let's go.
Going to go get it, go big or go home. And man, what happened was that there was a a little bit of a stall in getting the stores up and running, which there's always delays and things cost more than you expect. But then once it was finally up and running and we had the stores open and we were selling the product that we were selling in that store, there was an investigation done on the franchisor that sold us these, and they required that all the stores get shut down. So it had nothing to do with anything we had done, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus on that side of it, but that was what we found ourselves in. We had to shut down the stores, and we just didn't have staying power, didn't have cash flow, didn't have working capital to work with, and so faster than we had these stores up and going, we were closing them down, and my ego was in the way. I didn't want people to know, like, hey, we've already failed, you know. But we were now on the hook for these personal guarantees, and if we couldn't pay it, they were putting liens on our property. We couldn't pay on our mortgage. Like, all of our cash had gone into that, and then couldn't pay on our cars. And then our second daughter, who's a senior right now, ended up in the hospital during that time with some kidney and liver issues. And there was a mishap in our insurance from going from employed to self-employed, and they deemed her uninsurable.
Oh, no.
So all of a sudden she had treatments for 3 years that she had to, but she was not insurable. So all these medical bills were stacking up, and we just found ourselves in a world of hurt financially and without paying on bills and such. And honestly, during that time with young kids, the topic of conversation between me and my wife was, what do we feed them? And so that's where this Operation Conquer Hunger now stems from, is our experience. And our eyes started to become open to the need around us because we were the need. We found that in Davis County, Utah, where we live, we're in Farmington, there's 1 in 4 kids that go home on the weekends without enough food in the pantry, and that was our family. We were the 1 in 4.
Wow.
And then, we've done projects around the state here where it's 50% or it's 75% of the kids at an elementary school will go home without enough food. And so the difficulties that we went through were very, very eye-opening to us. They caused us to kind of see things in a different light, because now we were experiencing something. And it was something that we honestly had kind of received a spiritual warning for before it had even happened. And so while we were in the midst of it, we trusted in God that there was something we needed to learn from this, because we had this warning voice that was letting us know there was a storm of financial difficulty upon the horizon in our life. We didn't know exactly what that meant, but when it came, the warning wasn't necessarily to divert or detour or go around or back up. You're going to miss it if you do this or that. It was this storm will come. And because we were warned by God, we knew he must have something for us to learn from this. So in the midst of that, we tried to do everything possible to understand, why were we passing through this? And and that's helped us apply things to the life we're living now and to the business that we're running now, in a unique way, because I do believe you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. And so we were able to put this perspective into practice and the principles we learn.
No,
so,
I love that.
So it was difficult starting our own businesses. We lost it all. And, sometimes those are the greatest ways to learn. Oftentimes we hear of the storms of life or the winds and the waves that can come our way, and we want to try to avoid them. But in my scripture study, I look at that often, and I see that those are the moments where those winds or those waves are pushing people to a promised land or to an opportunity or something better. And so when those storms knock on your door, open them up wide, and it might hold on to your hold on to your seat, but oftentimes those are the best opportunities for us to kind of take things to the next level. And if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, it might be what you need next to become more acquainted with him in a different way than you had in the past. And now all of a sudden there's this extra strength and there's this extra connection that you hadn't had once prior to that.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me, and I'm going to butcher this a little bit, so if I don't have it exactly right, forgive me. But Neil A. Maxwell, towards the end of his apostleship, he got cancer, if you remember. And I remember there was an interview done, and you might probably know where I'm going with this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he was asked, I mean, here you are, you've served so faithfully for so long, and like, why would God allow you to have cancer? And his response was, I now can testify of him with authenticity. Is that, am I accurate?
I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking exactly of that. And then he followed it with something like, because experience is so precious, I'm going to hold on to every experience that I am given right now.
Dang.
And so,
chills.
Yeah,
it's amazing. In that dark time, in that dark moment, And I know I just want to ask, did you ever like doubt? Did you ever go like, God, where are you? Why would you allow this? Was there ever a moment of kind of, and again, just we're human, right? And sometimes we can waver. And did you ever have that at all? Or?
Not in God. Honestly, I can say
amazing.
Not in God, but in myself I did.
Okay.
And maybe in that there was maybe a little bit of,
Okay.
hey, like, God,
Yeah.
who am I? But it was for whatever reason that, and I think part of it was that we had received a spiritual impression and prompting prior to this knocking on our door that this would happen.
Okay.
We didn't know exactly how it was going to happen, but it was almost as if, okay, God has warned us, and so he will be with us in the storm. And and so I didn't turn on, or I didn't question whether he was there or whatnot. I questioned, like, am I doing the right things, and am I taking the right steps? And oftentimes he would allow me to just make the decision first and then confirm that decision or the wrongness of that decision. And that's kind of what my life's been a lot, about is stepping forward in faith, stepping into the darkness, into the unknown, and these fears that I once had as a child. And I'd be afraid to leave or this or that. And once I step through that fear, I find that there's so much life to live, and it's Christmas time right now. I love a scripture that says, I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And so Jesus Christ coming, he's to give us life in more abundance than we could, without that. So I never questioned God. I questioned what's the next step and how do I do this without feeling like a failure, and how do I get my wife out of this situation so she doesn't have to feel this pressure all the time. And so it was a lot of questioning God, but more so for the aid and the help that we needed. We relied upon our faith more than ever before in our personal lives and together as a couple. And I think that's where there's so much power and strength. And a lot of times, and I took my wife to there was this men's retreat, and they asked me to come and speak. And I was just there for the speaking opportunity. And so she came with me. She was sitting in the back, and she doesn't like being put on the spot. She doesn't like being in front of the group, but they brought her in and they circled her and they said, okay, we want to ask you some questions. Like, how did you do this? And she just, the sweaty eyes began, and she said, a lot of couples might turn away from each other and turn away from God, but instead we turn to each other and together we turn to God. And that was how we overcame it. Wow. That was it. That's how we conquered this situation.
That's beautiful.
And then, and then there's another a hurdle that comes up in the future, and okay, we can use experience to help us understand how to face the future. And almost more importantly, like, we can use that experience to help somebody else that's in the shoes we've been in or is in right now, and we can help them understand there's hope, and that's part of the reason why I write a book.
Yeah. I love that. We'll get to that in just a sec here. I want to ask you, because I work with a lot of clients who are in really dark places, right? And we've all have been in dark places. And I want to ask you, and I know who's at the top of this list, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Who are your darkest hour friends?
Outside of God, and then there's my wife. She's first and foremost. And while I felt like a failure so often, she would never do anything or say anything that would make me feel that way. So she would definitely be the first.
Yeah.
And then my children. They could care less whether we were driving fancy cars or had a nice home or whatnot at that time, especially you want some of those comforts in life, but they didn't care. There's a John Maxwell quote that states that success is knowing that those who know you best love you most. And so they knew me best. They knew that, there were some struggles in our life at the time, but that they knew me to the core. And even though I was failing in certain regards, there was other more important roles I was playing in life that they wanted me for. They need my time and attention. And if I gave them that, if I, played around on the floor with them and coached some of their teams and that type of thing, they loved that. My mom and dad are incredible individuals and definitely could go to at any time for anything. And there's moments during this where they showed up in some very big ways, honestly, while they were struggling themselves financially and such. And they came to the rescue in certain regards and just helped us through. And I think back, especially, after having my dad pass, I think back at certain moments in my life when I needed certain things most. And I remember a blessing in particular that he gave me. And it was my dad. He's a pretty long-winded guy, a little bit like me, can talk and talk and talk. And it was the most simple, short blessing he'd ever given to me, but it was the most poignant and most impactful of my life. And then I've got brothers and I've got sisters. I mean, I've never had around me people that told you, oh, you can't do that. It's not going to work. It's not like, I hear people say that all the time. I don't have that.
Yeah.
I just have these incredible individuals. It's honestly my family. Like I just turn to them.
Yeah.
You know.
No, that's
but
beautiful.
and it starts with my wife, and I know in who they trust. And so the advice that they give, or the caring and the loving, it's man, I hit the lottery when it comes to family.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, because I think of, in those darkest hours, who are we turning to? And I love just that, again, your whole unit, your whole surroundings, they all focus on God and how much that means to all of you guys.
Yeah.
It really is inspiring.
No, thanks.
Yeah, I love it. So you're the CEO and founder of Mountain Ops. That came about probably through this whole process. Yeah. I know we probably don't have time to go on the whole thing, but share a little bit about this company, and then also I want to get into the initiative that you guys are doing to conquer hunger.
Okay, great. Yeah, the company prior to Mountain Ops in 2010, while we're in the midst of this, struggle and this financial difficulties, I read a book called No More Heart Disease, and my dad had just had a few stents put in his heart, and that's the reason why I read this book, because I thought if I could help my dad in some way, and it talked about all these ingredients you could, add to your daily regime to help with heart health. And so I took that book to a chemist and asked him to whip up a concoction for me. We put my dad on it. He started to see some incredible results.
Really?
After the stents went in his heart, they told him he'd have open heart surgery after 5 years, and he never had to have that open heart surgery. My dad didn't die of a heart attack. His dad died of a heart attack. My mom's dad died of a stroke. So we have a history of heart disease in our family. Yeah. That's where the product started, was with a product called Enduro. I brought you a bottle of it here today. And it's an incredible product for cardiovascular. My dad had neuropathy, really, really bad. Couldn't feel his fingers and toes. So poor circulation.
Yeah.
So we started with my dad. He was my mission.
Okay.
And having my dad as the mission and the product benefiting him allowed me in those times when it was difficult financially to really sink my teeth into something that I could weather the storm with. If it was helping him and I could help others like him, then I knew I was, onto something that could benefit people's lives. And it wasn't just transactional. There was a mission behind it. And that felt good to me. About 4 years into that, we needed some marketing help, and I met with a marketing agency that was going to do some marketing for that business. And I found they were doing a lot in the hunting industry. Well, we didn't grow up hunting. We grew up in the outdoors with skiing and biking and hiking, that type of thing, but never hunting. And so these guys were telling me all that they were doing in the hunting industry. And I just said, is there a place for products like mine? And I'd been selling through doctors' offices. That's where and so I had thousands of doctors that created some credibility behind the product that I was selling, because they were using it with their patients. And so these guys said, hey, if the product works really well and if we brand it right, there's a huge hunter athlete movement right now, and there's no consumable product or company leading the way. So if we can do this together, and then Mountain Ops kind of came to the scene. So it came to the scene with products that I had already been working on for about 5 years. And then their knowledge of this hunting industry, mountains, and MTN and then Ops is our name. The mountains represent what we play in our backyard here, but also the mountains of life, what we're trying to achieve, and the summits that we're trying to reach. Maybe the mountains that we're facing in life that are difficult. If it might be physical, it might be spiritual, mental, social, those types of things. And wellness for us, in the realm of wellness that we play in, is we focus on those 4 quadrants. It's not just physical. It's not just looking good in the mirror. It's really feeling good about yourself, and with the connections in life, and with God, and that type of thing. And so we launched that, and OPS stands for Outdoor Performance Supplements. So Mountain Outdoor Performance Supplements.
Gotcha. We
launched in 2014. And honestly, it just took off because there wasn't a product like ours speaking to a hunter athlete that wasn't shopping in GNC. They weren't going to Gold's Gym. They were out in God's gym. That's where they played, and it's a very patriotic group. They love trucks. They love guns. They love God. And so coming out as a company who's centered on faith and God as our number one core value, it just almost allowed this community we started to build to be who they wanted to be, to say God, to say that they believe in a Jesus Christ and all these things. Sometimes we shy away from those conversations, but if we speak that, and if we share who we are and what we're about, it almost gives permission to others to say, me too, thank you. I want to share where I find strength in life. And so, that's what we've based the business on, is a recognition that God is involved in these details, because we had come through all this disaster and financial difficulty and such, and I can't look back and tell our story without saying there was a higher power involved
Right.
in putting people on our path and
For sure.
opening up doors that we wouldn't have had before, and so we try to recognize that involvement from a higher being, and so that's where we started, Mountain Ops.
Wow,
And we sell
that's
through, stores like Scheels, Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, a lot of farm and fleet type stores where you typically wouldn't see energy and nutritional supplements,
right.
but we're there, and
That's
our
awesome.
rancher cowboy type customers love it. And people wonder, they're like, was this just for hunters? It's like, well, these hunters, they're only hunting 7 to 10 days a year, so they use it in the field. But they're using it for the gym. They're using it for the day-to-day life.
Right.
And what we found with our mission to improve lives is that they're seeing the best results in their home as husbands, fathers, wives, mothers. They've got the energy to live life. And people hire us to help them lose weight or to gain strength. A lot of times they help us, or they hire us to just connect. And so they'll buy a shirt, they'll buy a t-shirt. We sell a lot of t-shirts and hats. And people understand this brand is about it's about community, it's about God, it's about family, and bringing people together and connecting in a unique way. And through connection, we conquer.
Wow, dang! I can tell, man. You just are on fire with this.
I love it.
I know.
It's one
Yeah.
of those things where you find, especially an opportunity to benefit a life, and it ties into your own lifestyle. And my family's dove headfirst into hunting as well. I love it. My mom and dad have been out, like
Yeah.
we took them, and what we've loved most about hunting is the connections that are made in the outdoors when you're undistracted, you're disconnected.
Right. No phones. You're connecting with who you're with.
Yep.
I love
Who
that.
you're with, the
Yeah.
environment around you, and hopefully all the creations that you're enjoying and you're looking at and you're taking pictures of just point you to the creator.
Yeah.
And so there's so much connection that occurs while you're doing that, and I absolutely love it. And so it gets me fired up and excited because we've just had so many experiences now around the world. New Zealand, South Africa, Alaska, here in our backyard of Utah. We've created some incredible bonds with different people throughout the world, different areas of the world, different cultures. And I take my family to do those things. And so we're experiencing these things together. And it's just been a blast to be a part of and to put together a team of like-minded individuals who also want to improve the lives of individuals and families. And our core values are everything. They're the line in the sand, the non-negotiables. We've rooted ourselves deeply into the ground with those, and they guide and direct us to the mission. And that's what our culture is all about.
Dang. I can feel the energy in this room, baby. That's amazing. I have a quote behind you on the wall by Ferdinand Foch. It says, "The most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire."
Oh, I love it.
And you're on fire, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
that.
But again, that fire within us, it's that spirit, it's that love, it's that compassion, the qualities, the same characteristics of our Creator.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely love it. That's cool.
Dang, I'm on fire, man. So, you and your wife did this initiative.
Yeah.
You want to conquer hunger, and I've actually seen the videos of them. They're amazing. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of these meal packs getting sent out to people who need it, and the people you get involved. I mean, hundreds, thousands of people.
Yeah.
Talk about that, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. And this all started during the struggle, during the trial, because we were trying to find what perspective does God want us to learn? What eyes are we, now being given to see with differently, and a heart to feel differently, a mind to think differently, and turning to our faith. We love the scriptures anytime there's miracles around food, because food was such a topic of conversation. So, or if it said, I'm the bread of life, then okay, or feed my sheep. Like we took that literally. Like, I know that's speaking of the gospel, but there's also sheep that need to be fed, nourished with food. And then the story of a young lad that had a few loaves and a few fishes. That's kind of where Operation Conquer Hunger stems from. Yeah. And we felt like a young lad and a young lady that had just a few loaves and a few fishes. And it started with $22 prior to Mountain Ops that we were giving through New Skin, Nourish the Children, to Malawi, Africa. And that's continued to fund a few meals there. And that's kind of how we started. But we just thought, hey, this is a struggle. We don't have $22 extra right now. Our school lunch balance, I was getting the emails every week that we were needing to pay for the kids, and that was weighing heavy on me. But we thought, let's not wait till the boat comes in full, because we don't know if the boat will come in full. Let's see what we can do now, and let's try to see if these loaves and fishes can multiply. And I remember creating little business decks where I wanted to create a business that would feed hungry children and families. I didn't know how that was going to come about, but now we found ourselves having donated these $22 for a few years now. Every month, it would feed a child for 30 days. And then now we're in this mountain ops outdoor industry where we're hunting for food, we're providing nutritional supplements. And I was like, okay, this is the moment. Now this opportunity to feed more children can come into play, because there's a lot of people that can't hunt for food or that can't fathom supplementing for their nutrition.
Yeah.
So let's help those by bringing, with every order that comes to our site, a portion of that sale, and let's put it into an Operation Conquer Hunger Fund. We'll buy food, we'll hold projects where we come together, we pack these meals, and we know what's going on right around us because we had that need. And now that need has become the gift that we could give. And as the business grew, those loaves and those fishes began to multiply as we partnered with other individuals and people with like-minded, missions in their life, or partners that wanted to be involved. Then the loaves and fishes just begin to multiply.
Wow,
And we're
awesome.
at 7 million meals having been donated through Operation Conquer Hunger now. In fact, this
Wow.
last summer, we got a call from New Skin and the Utah Jazz. They said, we're doing this big, we're going to break a Guinness World Record in July. And we're wondering if Mountain Ops would like to be a part of this. And I said, do you know my history with New Skin? And they're like, no. And I said, well, New Skin was where we started donating $22. And now you're calling us to participate in a Guinness World Record. And so it was kind of this full circle moment 14 years later, where we were in this room with New Skin, the founders of New Skin, and we had donated $100,000 from Mountain Ops to buy food, and we packed 550,000 meals in a 24-hour period of time with 2,500 people. And it just was, for me, I kind of have to leave the room every once in a while and just recognize God and recognize the path that we've been on and how he's allowed us this opportunity to multiply what he's given us. And as we've done that, the promise that I see in that scripture is that it comes back 12 baskets full. And then you have more resource to work with. And that's not always financial. That sometimes it's your time that's being freed up, or sometimes it's the people in your path that now you can do more with.
Yeah.
And we've just tried to put those loaves and fishes to use, and God does some amazing things with that. And so that's how we've started this Operation Conquer Hunger, and how today we do about 12 events every year. Now it's throughout the country. We'll meet with 300 or 400 people. We'll pack 50 to 60,000 meals in a setting. They go to a food pantry, a food bank that distributes them through the elementary schools. So these kids on the weekends or during the week, if they need it, they can go to the principal or the teacher, and discreetly they get this pack put in their backpack. It has 5 meals that they can prep on their own. They don't have to heat up a stove or anything like that. And at the end of these assembly lines, we put a little note in, and it's a Winnie the Pooh saying that I don't have it memorized, but you're braver than you seem, smarter than you think, love more than you know, you were made to conquer. And that's how it stays. And when I go and speak at events, I have these blank cards, and at the end of my speech, I have those participants there write a note to these children that we can put into these packs. And so, you've got your own children, and you think of them and you imagine them, and they go to school, and then they come home on an empty stomach, and it's just a distraction to connection, to connections with teachers, connection with their schoolmates, to connection to progress in their own life. And so that's all they want, is to fill that belly. So if we can fill the belly, we're doing that, but we're also removing that distraction and allowing some hope and confidence in their life, some belief that there is somebody that loves them, somebody that's aware, and that they have a great work to do as well. And so, yes, we're filling a belly, but we love being able to, with those notes and just with the awareness, drive home some love and some inspiration in these young children, and also to the parents who are burdened by this feeling of, maybe it's hopelessness or failure or depression, that they can't provide what they need to for their kids. And I and my wife know what that feels like. And so if we can help remove that from a mother or father, then that's our desire. And that's where we're trying to commit as much of our time. In fact, I recently hired a new CEO for Mountain Ops. Just in July at the 10-year anniversary, I hired my replacement. I haven't left the company. I'm acting more as founder, out there, drawing awareness to the brand. But I'm spending more time with our Operation Conquer Hunger to help drive some awareness to that.
That's great.
I love doing that a lot more than I like reporting to the board and doing reports and stuff like that. So it's incredible to have this new CEO that he's awesome. He knows how to run a company. He loves the brand and the culture and the product that we've created. So he's off to the races and doing incredibly well. But it's freed up some of my time to do more of this, and connecting with individuals that I want to connect with, and to do more with the community that we've built.
Wow, I love that. I can't help but think, I don't know if there's a book over there. It says The Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh. But in this book, this kid's basically saying, I want to be forgiveness. He's asking God, please, I want to be forgiveness. And, and he just keeps kind of like begging God almost. And God says, okay, in order for you to be forgiveness, something bad's going to have to happen. Because the only way you would ever understand what forgiveness really is you're going to have to go through something really, really difficult. And I can't help but think, it's almost as if you had to go through that in order for you to be doing what you're doing today. And I tell this to my clients all the time. Life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. Yep. And I cannot help but see that whole progression. You had to go through that in order to be doing what you're doing today. Do you see it that way?
100%. And I shared a quote earlier, you're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. That's why Jesus Christ is so powerfully positioned to serve each and every one of us. He went through everything we would go through. And so we're given an opportunity through moments in life and perspective moments where we gain empathy.
Yeah.
Right. And we couldn't have it any other way. We couldn't understand any other way. And so, those experiences where, we could have invested in one franchise and, it would have hurt less. I am so glad we gambled it all.
Right.
And people would think, oh, that's crazy. But no, we made a choice to see the perspective that was being gained. And I think that's what it comes down to, is in life, if these moments happen for us, we need to choose to see them for such.
Yes.
I think a lot of moments in life just pass people by, and that was a difficult thing. And a lot of people go through difficult things. Yeah, what we went through is not very uncommon, but what we're doing about it is somewhat uncommon. Yeah. And that's where, intentionality and our daily choices come into play. And really in my thought processes, staying connected with God so that he can teach you along the way, and he can show you what that was for. After my dad passed, there was a scripture that was read with our family, and it was, I do this for a wise purpose. Simple statement. Yeah. But if we can take that mentality in life and just say, okay, what's the wise purpose behind what is occurring right now and what will occur in the future? And if we can just look at life that way, there is so many wise purposes that will enlighten our mind and our hearts and our souls to all the good and all the progress and all that we're meant to do and become in this life.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's beautiful. So now you've got this book. Yeah. You had time to write a book, kind of give you a chance to kind of share the story, right? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about why you wrote the book, and kind of tell our listeners what they would be getting into if they read your book. Yeah,
the Conquer Code, it took me about 5 years to write. So I didn't have a ton of time, but I took little bites at a time. Little bit at a time. And we have this Conquer More challenge at Mountain Ops every month, and there's a goal you set for spiritual, physical, mental, social. It's part of our culture there, and we have an accountability partner. And in the mental section, I would tell my accountability partners for 5 years, I'm writing 500 words in my journal this week. But really what I was doing was writing this book. I just didn't want anyone to know. My wife and my kids knew, but I didn't want anyone else to know, because I didn't know what I would do with it. Sure. If in the end I was just writing a journal that I would pass to my kids and my grandkids, that was okay. And honestly, that's my main priority, is to pass to them something. Yeah. There's a scripture I love. It says, we talk of Christ, we rejoice in Christ, we preach of Christ, we prophesy of Christ. And we do this so that our children will know the source that they can go to for a remission of sins, or for peace, or for comfort. And so my goal in mind was to have that. My talking of Christ, my preaching of Christ to them, these stories that we share, it's in there for them, so that they can know where my faith and where my trust was, and hopefully them in turn, they kind of look in the same direction. So I wrote it for them, wrote it for my wife, kind of our history. And nice. But it's also the entrepreneurial journey that we've been through together as a family, and then the core values of Mountain Ops that are incorporated into how this mission has been built, how this culture's been built. And so I tell these stories. In the end, I was done with it. I hired an editor to help me, dot my I's, cross my T's, make sure I was spelling right, make sure the stories flowed. Yeah. And I worked with that editor for about a year. And I just didn't know, when will I launch this? Will I launch it? And once it was done, I actually handed a few copies out to some friends, just printed them. And I gave a couple to some of our board members at Mountain Ops. And they came back and they said, Trevor, this is good content. It's family friendly.
Yeah.
It's inspiring. It's this and that. Like, this needs to be a tool to drive awareness for Mountain Ops. We know you have other initiatives for it, you and other purposes for it, for your wife and kids.
Yeah.
And ultimately for me, it's I want, through my life and through my experiences, to point people to Christ. And so that's the purpose. For my kids, to point them to Christ. For the audience that reads it or listens to it, to point them to Christ. And for the Mountain Ops community that's reading it, to understand the heart and soul of Mountain Ops, how it's been built, why it's been built, how my father was the first individual that we built this product for, and how proud he was of what we were doing in the community. And so these individuals that are, taking Mountain Ops product can get a little glimpse into how this company is different, because there's so many supplement companies out there. They have the best flavor, the best ingredients, right? Everyone's saying the same thing.
Everyone's saying the same thing.
But our differentiator is the heart and soul and what we're doing in the community to feed hungry children, 7 million meals, and all the lives that are being blessed. And so we want to share that. We want to shout it from the rooftops. But it was interesting recording that book when it was all said and done, and getting it ready for Audible was a scary process. In fact, the adversary was really at play in my life, making me feel like, you don't have anything to share. And I didn't want people to think, okay, I'm coming out with a book. Look at what I've got. I shy away from that. That's not me. But I was in that room recording, just feeling kind of like, what in the world am I doing? And then the last page of the book, it's a testimony from my wife and I together of Jesus Christ and of the strength that we receive from him in our lives. And that's what an adversary would not want us to share. And so I'm like, okay, once that was done, there was some peace, and there was some some comfort and confidence that I was doing something I needed to do. And it's not like we're out there selling millions of copies, but the individuals that have read it and responded to me, I'm so grateful that I wrote it for this person or for this person or for that, but again, when all is said and done, it's for my children. Yeah. So
I love that. No. And, I've gone through that process of writing a book, and it's not easy.
It is one of the most difficult things.
Yeah. I think mine took almost like 10 years. It was brutal.
Yeah.
But again, I love that you did that. I love, again, that you put it out there. This is what I believe. This is what I stand for. And not only is it helping us, but I know it can help you. Yeah. And really, if I know you, and if that book is helping someone, you're like, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So
there's some practical exercises in the book that help, like that what we do at Mountain Ops with the Conquer More Challenge. That exists in the book, so it helps direct people on helping them set their own goals in those realms of life as well.
Yeah, thank you. A couple more things I want to talk about. You have some principles that the company lives by. Yeah. It's probably your own principles that you live by, and one of them is ownership. Yeah. There's a bunch there we could talk about, and we don't have time, but I love that principle of ownership. Talk about that for a minute. Why is that so important, not just in business, but in our everyday lives?
Yeah, I think we need to take accountability for our actions. And I think there's two aspects to this that I love sharing about. There was a moment when we were in the midst of this storm, and that things just weren't right. And I really was frustrated with the individual we'd bought these stores from. And I remember kneeling down next to my bed one night, and I was voicing these frustrations. Never any ill will towards this individual. Right. I didn't want anything bad to happen to him. But I was just frustrated. I felt like I was stuck, or I was having to go start over again. And so I was sharing this with God, and all of a sudden I was just pricked with the words, I wrote the check. And I had to think, I could have written the check for one of these franchises. It could have been a lot smaller check. The pain would have been a lot less. But then in that same moment, as I'm thinking that, I wrote the check. I need to offer some forgiveness. But in that same moment, I was recognizing there were so many experiences I was having that were improving my life because of the choice to write that check. And I needed to own that. So when I speak to ownership, a lot of the times it's like there are moments happening for us in life, and we need to own them. Yeah. So many people are letting them pass them by. And so how do we keep our eyes wide open and our heart open to owning the moments in life? And just like going back to Elder Maxwell, because experience is so precious, what are you getting from them? How are you owning those precious moments that can mean everything to how we improve and we progress through life? And so I just feel like ownership comes down to, yes, accountability. And it might be because of some mistakes, but it also in so many ways is what were we supposed to learn and how do we apply it to our lives and to the benefit of others?
Ooh, man, very well said. That's one of the principles that I teach my clients. I usually just use the word accountability.
Yeah.
And the blessing that comes from accountability is suffering stops. Because the opposite of accountability is we're blaming or we're pointing fingers or why this, why that. Suffering continues. And I use that with my own life. Like I used to blame everyone for my addiction. It's this person's fault. This happened. It's God's fault. And I just suffered. And I'll never forget my mentor said, when are you going to finally take accountability for your life, Todd? When are you going to finally do that? And just hearing that, the way he said it was such force because I had been just wallowing in this victim stance and I just continued to suffer.
Wow.
And it was in that moment, it was like, wow, he's right. He's like, take accountability. And my suffering didn't stop instantly, but it stopped.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm
So
hearing,
powerful.
right? Isn't that powerful? Because the moment you said, well, you wrote the check.
I wrote it.
I love that answer, by the way.
I wrote the check. So what checks are we writing in life, right?
Yeah.
We write the checks. And sometimes they clear the bank and sometimes they don't, But I remember in that moment thinking, I wonder what it will be like to see that individual that I was so just a moment ago so frustrated with. But now I don't feel that frustration. And I remember seeing him at Joy Luck Restaurant in Bountiful, Utah. It was probably a year later. And I walked right over to the table, shook his hand, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. We didn't talk about it. We see, I asked him how he's doing, how's his family, this and that was it. And there's no need to hold on to that.
That's powerful. Thanks for sharing that. I really do. I want to share a quote with you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Okay. It's by James Allen. He's famous for writing As a Man Thinketh, and he's one of my heroes in my life. His words have done a lot of things for me, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. It's kind of long, but when one has reached the lowest point of sorrow, when weak and exhausted and overcome with a sense of powerlessness, he cries to God for help, and there comes no answering comfort or succor. Then, discovering the painfulness of sorrow and insufficiency of prayer alone, he's ready to enter the path of self-renunciation, ready to purify his heart, ready to practice self-control, ready to become a spiritual athlete, and to develop that divine and invincible strength which is born of self-mastery.
Oh.
Wow, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to hear that again too. That is powerful.
I know that's a lot.
My mind goes to a few places though. When you're in that deepest, darkest, despair, and people say they call it rock bottom.
Yeah.
That's where I find my rock.
Yeah.
That rock bottom can be the most incredible place to be. And then there's moments in our life. There was one moment where my wife came into our room and into my home office, and she just fell to the floor, and she was sobbing, and I couldn't get her under control, and she was saying something, but I couldn't hear it. And she said, "It's all gone. It's all gone." And I said, "What is all gone?" And she said, "This is a Friday afternoon." She said, "I just got into our bank account. There is nothing in there. It is all gone." And I was like, that can't be. We had enough to live on for another few months. I quickly ran over to my desk, pulled up the computer, got in, zeros. Wow. And so I fell to the floor in this deepest despair, and we found ourselves on our knees. We were praying to God, but it was empty. Like we had nothing financially left. And I remember my father, and this is one of these moments where, I could lean on my parents. I called my father, told him what was going on. He showed up with a $50 bill and said, "Use this over the weekend to buy some food, some, whatever for the kids.
Sure.
On Monday, I'll come back and we'll call the banks together. We'll call the bank." What had happened was we had our personal account and our business account at the same place. The business line of credit went past due, and there was like a $300 minimum payment on it.
Oh.
Instead of coming into our bank account to pull out the minimum payment, they withdrew everything out of our bank account to pay down the balance. I didn't know they could do that. So we never keep our personal and our business together at the same bank anymore. I had no idea. They wouldn't reverse that. And so my dad, gave us this $50. We spent a little bit of it on Saturday, and then I looked to my wife, and we had $43 left to our name, and we both knew what we needed to do, and we started a fast, and this was all we had left, and we decided this $43 will mean so much more if we show God how important he is in our life than whatever we can buy with it this weekend,
Yeah, right.
So we started a fast. That became our fast offering.
Wow.
And there was the most incredible peace and trust and confidence that I have in a moment where I shouldn't feel any confidence.
Right.
I felt more confidence in my life and in my relationship with God than ever before, because everything was turned over to him. And
Wow.
that was the most incredible blessing, is feeling that connection in that way. On Monday morning, I'm off at a meeting, and my wife keeps calling me, and I pick up, and she's like, we've just had another miracle. And an agency you typically don't get surprise returns from had a check in our mailbox, and it was for just over the amount of what was taken. And I don't say that to say, hey, you do this and it always happens like this,
Right.
because that was an incredible blessing. But the major, major blessing in our life at that time was just feeling like it is all turned over to you, God.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Dang.
So there's something about
amazing.
turning our life, turning it over, and not trying to be so in control of everything. Letting God truly prevail in your life by turning your life over to him is the most incredible and securing and confident feeling I've ever had in my life.
Truly becoming a spiritual athlete.
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of training, a lot of hard work,
Yeah.
hard knocks, blood, sweat, and tears.
Lots of
right?
it. And I don't know if that answers your question
No, it
with the
does.
thought, but I mean,
Yeah.
there is so much depth to the quote you just read. But wow, yeah, life
you.
will give us some amazing opportunities.
Yeah. If there's someone listening to your voice right now and they're in a dark place, they are in a rough spot, what would you tell that person right now?
I would tell you that no matter how alone you may think you are, you're not. There's somebody that is so very much aware of who you are, where you are. There's a story in my book, and I maybe I shouldn't dive into it, but do we have just a minute to share that?
As long as you got time, I got time.
While we were building out these stores, there was one last store I was trying to build to get something coming through for my family, and I was building out this store by myself. Trent would come up and help me every once in a while, but I couldn't hire a contractor, so I was framing, I was sheetrocking, I was doing all this, and it honestly it was way beyond what I could do, and I didn't have the tools. My wife had a little pink toolbox. That's what I would use. I was in there, and Trent would come cheer me up every once in a while with some Costa Vida or something, because I just wasn't eating during that time too. And I was there late one night. We really needed the store to open. It was about 9:30. I was packing my stuff up to go, and I just had this impression I needed to stay a little longer. And then I had this surge of energy. It was like, okay, maybe I can stay and do a little bit more, and we need the store to open, so this is good. I'm feeling this way. I called my wife. I said, hey, do you mind? I need to stay and get this done. And she's like, the kids are already in bed, so you're good. I'm going to go to sleep. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I went back to work with this new energy that's just resurged through my body. And I went to work, and I was there till 1:30 in the morning. And I was just so grateful that I could spend that extra time there. I got in my car at 1:30 in the morning. I had about a 20-minute drive, and I got up to close to our neighborhood, and I was driving down this old country road, and this car went flying past me, and I thought, man, they were going 80 miles per hour, and sometimes they use these country roads for speedways.
Sure, yeah.
And then as I came up, I could see something in the middle of the road, and I thought, oh, for sure that car just hit something, and I'm going to come up on it, and then I could see it kind of moving as I got closer, and I thought, it's going to be an animal. It's just been hit. I'm going to have to take care of this. And as I got a little closer, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was a little child walking down the middle of the road, this old country road. And so I pulled off, I swooped that child up, took him to the side of the road, looked at him, and I knew everyone in the neighborhood, and I didn't recognize this child.
Wow.
And he couldn't have been 2 years old, in his pajamas, 2:00 in the morning, walking down this road. So I thought, maybe it's the house right here. I'll go up and knock. And I knew who it was. This little old lady in my ward with white curlers came to the door, and I said, do you know who this child is? And she said, I don't know who that is. So we called 911. The cops showed up. I gave them a neighborhood directory, and they did a reverse 911 call. So if you're a parent, imagine getting a call at 2:00 in the morning. Do you have children in your home? Are they in their beds? And that's what happened in our neighborhood. All these parents running. And then all of a sudden I had a little army of parents out on this street with me, and nobody knew who this child was. And so everyone was taking pictures with their phone, and then we spread out and we started knocking doors. And the people would come, and I took this child in my arms, and I went door to door. Do you know who this child is? And after about an hour, nobody knew. We came back to where we were. So we all started. We were all standing there. I'm standing there on the curb holding this child's hand, and I start to pray to God, like, God, Heavenly Father, how do we do this? Nobody knows who this child is, and we can't find his home, this and that. And just this sudden impression, I know who he is, and he's the reason you stayed late tonight. And then I had this impression of a family that might not have been approached. And I said to the police officer, could you drive us down this street? And it was probably about 3/4 of a mile this child had walked. We drove down the street. There was parents waiting in the front yard. They had just called 911 to try to find their child.
Oh, man.
And the embrace of that child with his parents was something amazing to watch at 3:00 in the morning. It was a family that was visiting the grandparents, sleeping on the trampoline in the backyard.
Oh.
This little child, while everyone was sleeping on the trampoline, climbed off and walked right down the middle of this country road. But I'll always remember the feeling and the thought process that so often in life, like you just said, there's people that are in a dark and lonely place. They might be walking this dark and lonely road. And maybe at times we all have those experiences. But I would just say, just like I felt that night, that I know who he is. That's what God would want us to know. I know who you are. And there's people around you that will support you. Open up, be vulnerable, share what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were struggling, I didn't want anyone to know. Had I expressed something to my neighbors around me, I would have found that multiple of those neighbors were going through the same thing, and we could have supported each other.
Right.
So if you're in a dark place, more than anything though, hopefully that story and that experience just demonstrates that no matter how dark or dangerous or lonely that road is, and it might feel like it's just we're going nowhere, we don't know anyone around us, that God knows who we are.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That was powerful. Man, this has been amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Seriously.
Thanks for the great conversation.
Yeah, this has been a great conversation. I'm filled. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Todd.
I'm sure everyone listening to this has been filled. Thank you for just being you and fighting the good fight and doing your best through these tough times and relying on God and your family and the people around you. And I think it's just good advice for all of us. And congrats to the success of Mountain Ops. And more importantly, I know what means more to you is that initiative and feeding these kids who need the food. Congrats on that as well. Congrats on the book, the podcast. You got a podcast as well, by the way. He's just getting that kicking and going. Hopefully one day I can be on that.
I want you on there for sure.
But no, just again, I love the way you carry yourself. I love your family. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule. And I'm glad we finally got to do this after all this time.
Todd, you're amazing. I will do this time and time again to be with you. So thank you. Appreciate it very much.
You bet. If people want to reach out to you and learn more about the initiative and maybe even a way to get your book and learn more about Mountain Ops, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you can search my name, Trevor Farnes, on social media, on LinkedIn, and trevorfarnes.com takes you actually to the book. Or theconquercode.com will take you there as well. And then Mountain Ops is spelled MTNOPS.com. It's kind of the abbreviation. So.
Okay. And I'll put those links in the show notes.
Awesome.
So when we go live, they can just click right to it. But I challenge everyone out there just to reach out to you and find out and get more involved with what you're doing and get a copy of that book and share it with the family and uplift anyone who might be struggling. So
awesome. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. It means the world to me.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, there you go. You're probably thinking what I'm thinking. Wow, that was amazing. Thanks for being here. As always, please reach out to Trevor. Like I said, the links will be in the show notes right there. So just click on those and find out more about the great stuff he's doing and the great products and all that stuff that they do to help other people. If you have a loved one who's struggling, send them a link to this episode. If you have a hard time breaking the ice with someone because you're not sure what to say, send them a link to this and that'll break the ice and you can follow back up with them like, hey, what did you gain from this episode with Trevor? And they'll have a million things to talk about and it'll open up a conversation. So please do that. Again, thanks for your support. Again, thanks to the sponsors. I love you guys. And until next time. And again, Trevor, you're the best. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Todd.